What's going on, folks? Ted from Nerd Immersion here, and I have a topic today that I think both veteran and new DMs alike will enjoy. But I'm talking about creating magic items, specifically interesting and unique magic items that don't require, a game development background to create. This came to me in the form of a Q&A over on my TikTok channel, where someone had said, hey, I'm a new DM and I'm thinking about getting into giving my players unique magic items. The thing is, I'm a new DM. I don't really know how to do that. I want to give them something interesting and unique that they've never really seen before that they'll all cling to and enjoy. But because I'm new, I don't really know how to go about that. What advice would you give? So I have some advice that I'll provide based on things that I've done and some tools and tricks and things that I use to do that. But it also gives an opportunity for all of you to sound off in the comments down below and let us know how you go about this. Whether it's, do you have a tried and true method that you always use? Do you just like to spend hours crafting the history and backstory of epic level artifacts? If so, what tips do you use? Let's use the comment section here to help expand that. And if you want to go follow and join the Nerd Immersion Discord, you can take the conversation over there as well. We have a really great team of people over there, and they have a great conversations happening all the time in a variety of different topics. So, speaking of which, it's been a while since we talked about it. 92.2K here on the channel, so thank you for helping to grow it. If you haven't subscribed, consider doing so. But since we're talking about magic, I wanted to talk to you about the sponsor for today's video, Milando's Guide to Magical Marvels from Aventier Games. Now, you may remember Aventier Games. We've talked about them in the past, but this I thought was specifically an interesting Kickstarter that just launched maybe an hour or two ago and has already made it past its funding goal with 174 backers. And it's for folks, I would say more on the veteran side, who have been used to playing 5th edition and they're used to the magic system and want to breathe something a little more unique as the magic has become more mundane to them. It introduces 3 new schools of magic. Hex crafting, which is crafting curses and things like that, but at a price. Rune carving, sort of magical items and things crafted with special runes. And spell warping, which is literally harnessing volatile magic, wild magic stuff to possibly immense detriment to the character, but also for a huge risk and reward scenario. So there's a ton of information here. I'll have a link in the top of the video description, as well as a pinned comment. But it also includes 3 adventures, a bunch of stuff related to these new classes, merchant NPCs, new monsters, new magic items, traps, and hazards. It's set to launch in February of next year. If you back Early Bird, you'll get 2 standalone 5e adventures. And the base level to get the PDF is only $17 US. And obviously that will come out in September of this year. And then there's hardcover related tiers and things as you go up. So a huge shout out to Aventier Games for sponsoring this video. Be sure to go check out Milando's Guide to Magical Marvels down in the description. And let them know Nerd Immersion sent you. So that being said, let's talk about magic items. Now, my original advice that I provided to that person that sent me this original question was one of the simplest things you can do is reskin an existing magic item into something else. And this could be a magic item that you think is pointless. It doesn't get a lot of use because of its specificity. One of my best examples is the Mace of Disruption. I absolutely hate the Mace of Disruption. I think it's a really dumb magic item as a mace. I get it, it's for clerics, but I think you could do a lot of cool stuff with this. It is a very specific thing. My go-to thing that I've always talked about is when attempting to try to replicate the Vampire Killer Whip from Castlevania, I would use the Mace of Disruption, and I would put it on a +3 whip, and then keep all of the same mechanics, but add that to it. But a Mace of Disruption, a Sword of Disruption, even Arrows of Disruption could be interesting from a bow. That's a very simple thing, but you already are taking something that's in theory balanced because it exists in the game, and then you are taking that and now making it into something else. So the players, it's just unique, right? Another thing that I mentioned there is adding +1s to things. That's a very also simple thing, but like a flame tongue weapon, right? For example, a flame tongue has to be different kinds of swords. but they don't provide you any bonus to attack or damage. But a +1 Flame Tongue is pretty cool. That's a little bit different. To that same point, talking about the Flame Tongue, you could make a Flame Tongue axe, a Flame Tongue dagger, a Flame Tongue flail, whatever you want. And then again, taking any of those things that deal damage like that, like a Flame Tongue or a Frost Brand, and swapping the damages around. Maybe it's a Lightning Tongue or, you know, an Acid Brand, right? So it gives you, I don't know, you have to figure out how the specifics are going to work, but you're changing the damage types of these things, and now it makes them unique. And as long as you go about describing the way the item looks and giving it sort of a unique history, that can really go a long way to make your players be like, oh my god, that's so cool. Put a clue on it, something, maybe it belonged to some ancient hero. And to that point, there is the section of the beginning of the magic item section in the Dungeon Master's Guide that I feel like a lot of people overlook. And there's actually a ton of great resources that expand this on the DM's Guild and even for free on Reddit and other places. But this was to give a history to your magic item. So it was, what was the created or intended use for this magic item? And it has a D20 here. You could probably find, I think, up to D100 versions of this. But let's say we look at Fae. This item is exquisitely crafted for the finest materials and glows with a pale radiance in moonlight, shedding dim light in a 5-foot radius. Any metal in that item is silver or mithril rather than iron or steel. Very simple aesthetic changes, and that's huge. That could definitely make people want to cling to that because it's unique. If we scroll down from there, we have what are the details from this thing's history. Ornament, right? This was to honor a special occasion, or heroic, a great hero once wielded this. Does it have any unique minor properties? These minor properties are also something that you could do to include as basically just common magic items contained within your world, right? This item never gets dirty. It gives a +2 to initiative to anybody that has it. It only takes a minute to attune to it. It has the ability to unlock something, right? How cool is it to have, a sword that the hilt of the sword is also a key that unlocks a box somewhere that you could build a quest around? And then lastly, what quirk does it have? This kind of leans a little more into the sentience side, but not necessarily, right? Covetous, this wearer now becomes obsessed with material wealth, or it helps them feel more self-assured. These are little things that you can do to add nuance. Now, I'm not saying you need to do this per se, but any one of the things we've just mentioned from this whole table, and again, from the tons of expanded tables you can find on the internet in various forms, are a great way to just take simple magic items. Your Wand of Magic Missile is, possessive. The item demands attunement when first, magic missile was a bad example because you don't attune to it. But either way, right, the bearer experiences a painful flash of, harmless flash of pain when using the item. Well, a Wand of Magic Missile is a pretty mundane thing, but if it shocks you when you go to use it, I don't know, maybe that adds a unique aspect. Maybe you try to figure out why, and you can craft the whole quest line around why that is. To that point, again, we talked about swapping out damage types. You could also do something very simple to like that. You could have a Wand of Magic Missile, but the magic missiles do lightning damage as opposed to force damage. Or use that item, as I said earlier, and make it something else, right? It was a Wand of Magic Missile is cool, but a belt buckle of Magic Missile that's a big, gold belt buckle that says BAMF and now can shoot magic missiles out of it, that's pretty cool too. People are going to probably end up fighting over that. Another simple thing is to look at consumables like potions and see if there's a way you could take a potion effect and turn it into a permanent magic item with limited use. For example, we have the potion of aqueous form, right? Drinking this potion, you can transform into a pool of water, get your Alex Mack on, right? And move through liquid, watery resistance, and things of that nature. Perhaps there's a magic item, perhaps it's a cloak of aqueous form, and rather than it being something that you do and then the potion is gone, you put this cloak on and maybe it looks like flowing water or something like that. It has ripples on it whenever the character moves around. But now when they can activate this once a long rest, once a short rest, whatever mechanics you feel like you want to do. But this is taking something that was, again, once a once-off item and making it now a permanent fixture that the party can continue to use. Same thing again, looking at things like I said, like wands, taking a spell that doesn't have a wand associated with it and making it, right? We talked about the wand of magic missile. There is no wand of chromatic orb, but you could make one. That's a pretty simple thing to do. Pick a spell that you think is unique, slot it into an item, take a spell and put it in an item. You have a +1 longsword that once a long rest, the wearer can cast burning hands off the tip of the sword. They point the sword out at somebody and it shoots the burning hands from the tip of it. Pretty simplistic, pretty unique, pretty awesome. People are going to love to have things of that nature. Also, look at cantrips, right? Anything that most cantrips can do, especially the non-damaging cantrip varieties, take a look at those. See what kind of quirky things they can do. Prestidigitation can flavor food, right? Take little effects like things like that and apply them to a magic item, right? How funny would it be for you to have a dagger that when you twist the hilt of the dagger over top of food, it can flavor the food a certain way, right? That's a silly little thing, but that's a unique magic item that I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the party never deals with, I don't know, maybe you just call it pepper, right? Maybe that's the name of the dagger, or pepper strike, and all it is a +1 dagger, but when it has an unlimited pepper mill in the handle. That's goofy, but that's the kind of things that players will be like, we're not going to get rid of pepper strike. Are you kidding me? What if we need to season our food while also stabbing someone? Then you have the player that'll be like, well, if we just make a lot of pepper, we can make a pepper bomb and throw it at people and get it in their eyes and make them sneeze. And again, now people are spending hours what kind of things we could do with an unlimited source of pepper that also happens to be a dagger. Same thing, adding effects to armor, right? You have simple chainmail armor. Perhaps you add, I don't know, I'm just looking at some of this stuff. So you have the Amulet of Health, right? Which is normally a necklace that gives you a 19 Constitution score. Well, this could be Armor of Health. It's plate mail armor or chainmail armor, but it also gives you the same effect as the Amulet of Health. Again, mix and match different options here is a great way to get around that. And then I guess another thing that I would also suggest is, I've said this a bunch before, no one knows when you steal stuff unless you make it blatantly obvious or you flat out tell them. So if you saw somebody else use a magic item in an actual play that you like and you want to either direct copy it or tweak and alter it, that could be fine. If you play D&D related video games, right? Look up the magic items from those games and see if they have a corollary, right? Baldur's Gate 3 is a great example, right? If you're playing through Baldur's Gate 3, look at the cool magic items that exist in a game like Baldur's Gate 3, and that one's already in D&D 5e terminology. You might be able to just adapt those directly into your game or alter and tweak them slightly and do so. The same thing with things from older editions, right? There's books like the Magic Item Compendium from 3.5 that has just a collection of a bunch of magic items. Now, again, a lot of that stuff, the terminology, the type of saving throws, and what the different things it can do will be different than it would be if it was in 5e, but you can use it for inspiration. These resources exist out there. Take your favorite anime weapon. And I'm sure you can also look this stuff up too, right? How would you do this weapon, in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition? And I'm sure there's someone who's already thought of it, or at least started a Reddit thread or something somewhere, a forum post, asking about these kinds of things, and you can try to use those to adapt them yourselves. I mean, when I think about some of the most epic magic items or the ones that the players loved so much that they clung to, I have like 3 examples. One was what I called the battle saddle, which was a saddle to be used for a mounted, an animal companion or something of that nature. And when attached to the mount, it gave the rider the benefits of the mounted combatant feat. And that was an amazing thing that they never wanted to lose, because we had a paladin who had a fine steed. So the battle saddle was huge. I had gloves of divine something for the paladin, and it tweaked some of his abilities. That's another one, right? It allowed him to do lay on hands as a bonus action, which is something that paladins can't normally do. It's an action, but lay on hands got a lot more use when I gave him a magic item that was attunement, but it did allow him to also cast lay on hands as a bonus action. That was another huge one. And then I also gave him a sword that the pommel was like a ruby, but whenever he like critically hit, he could feel like a heartbeat thrumming in it, and the ruby would glow, and it could like give him temporary hit points. And just the coolness of the thrumming and the beating heart was like everybody loved that. I'm trying to think if there's any other major magic items that I provided. Those two are the ones that jump to mind. But if you also see a gap, right, that a specific party member has, like your monk is constantly burning through his key points, and he's not getting much for it, give him a magic item that gives him more key points or an ability to get key points back. If the party is severely lacking of healing and it's to the point where you as the DM feel uncomfortable, drop a healing, some kind of magic item that allows them to heal in a way they couldn't normally, right? Maybe it's a special banner for the fighter that when the fighter uses second wind, all of his allies get the same amount of healing. That could be a fun thing, stuff like that. So anyway, folks, that is just a couple of ideas of how you can take and repurpose some things, a couple little tweaks and things to make magic items that are unique and interesting that your party will likely cling to. Now, I'm sure you guys have better ideas than I do, or you're going to tell me if you do, and please do so. Like I said, sound off in the comments down below. Check the video description for the Discord. You can go and join up over there and answer, bring up your ideas, discuss them over there. And once again, I thank you to Milando's Guide to Magical Marvels for sponsoring this video, and I will see you all next time.